This video is sponsored by Mobalytics. Mobalytics is 100% free and it helps you improve at League of Legends. It gives you pre-game and post-game advice so you know what you're supposed to be thinking about before you get into a game. It allows you to track and compare specific stats to your favorite pro players, and it also allows you to compare yourself to the tier of player that you want to become. Its one-of-a-kind GPI allows you to understand exactly what parts of League that you should be focusing on more, and it gives you helpful tips in order to improve those specific parts of League.
Save him, and King's Grace is in tatters for the first time ever. RNG is chasing success. Royal never give up, rule the world, winning MSI 2018. To behold the happiness as the crownless king now rules the world. LPL Spring Miracle Run, taking every single opponent down that China had to offer, and now the world too.
And what a year for the best player in the world, UZI. He decided in the last big team fight, he survived.
You don't have to take my word for it. Plenty of professional players, ADCs, have come out and said that UZI is the guy to be. And if you haven't seen UZI play, it's just because how dominating he is. He can test you for every single CS. He loves to build up those gold leads. Highest gold lead at 15 of any of ADCs in the position. And he is just a monster in the bot lane.
So he's just always fucking me. And anytime I go for a CS, I'm just getting pressured. It's so hard to play against him.
So you'd say like his auto spacing's really good?
Suck my dick. I didn't want.
Although China is not considered to be the best region in the world, UZI is definitely considered to be the best AD carry in the world. Many people consider UZI to be the faker of AD carry, and it is not that surprising given his recent performance at MSI has shown that he is one of the most well-farmed AD carries in the world. In a recent game against Fnatic, he was able to hit 300 CS at 24 minutes. Most people have trouble hitting 10 CS per minute, yet UZI was able to hit this much in a professional game. How is UZI able to be such a dominant AD carry? Now, there are a number of factors that make UZI such a great AD carry, but the first one that needs to be mentioned is the drafting phase of RNG. RNG's drafting phase have a few similarities. The first, of course, is putting UZI on a hyper carry such as Kog'Maw, Tristana, or Xayah, but RNG also prioritizes early game junglers. Junglers that are able to survive and invade without a lot of help is very important to RNG, because the way that UZI often gets his massive CS leads is by taking the farm of his own jungler. MLXG often picks hard 1v1 champions such as Olaf and Lee Sin. He needs to make sure that he's able to take the enemy jungler's farm so that UZI is able to take his farm. A few patches ago, jungle farm was changed so that each camp was individually worth 8 CS. Because UZI takes a ridiculous amount of his own jungler's farm, it inflates his own CS by a huge amount. There is only so much gold and creeps on the map, and RNG consistently chooses to funnel as much of it as possible onto UZI. Now, while the jungle farm is one of the big reasons why UZI gets such ridiculous leads, it is not the only reason as to why he gets these leads. Another reason that UZI is able to maintain his lead so easily in lane is because RNG heavily prioritize giving UZI a good lane to be in. What RNG often does is they will pick a strong laning support like Karma, or they will last pick their support to get a counter lane like Tahm Kench. UZI almost always gets a lane matchup where he is either going even or he's going to be winning. UZI never gets into a lane matchup where he can't do anything. The way that UZI maintains his lead in lane is by continuously pressuring the enemy ADC whenever he goes up for a CS. By playing hyper aggressive in lane and contesting every single creep that the enemy champion goes for, you're making the enemy ADC feel very uneasy about just going for CS. It is a similar strategy to what Faker does in the mid lane, playing hyper aggressively. Notice how UZI auto attacks the enemy ADC for every single CS he chooses to take under the turret. Every single creep in lane is an objective, and UZI does not let it go uncontested. But remember, this playstyle is only available when UZI's team drafts completely around him. In more normal team comps, UZI is forced to play more safe, and as a result often does not get huge CS leads like he does in these games. The most interesting aspect about RNG is just how much they're willing to commit for one player. They do not just draft picks around him, they don't just give him jungle farm, His top laner and jungler often go support items to make sure that he stays alive even longer. One of the best examples of how they overbuy for Uzi is Locket of the Iron Solari. Now, Locket is a fantastic item, and you're going to see it pretty much in every single professional League of Legends game. It's got a great stat line, it's really cheap, and even though it doesn't feel like it, it does give a huge amount of teamfight presence. However, Locket's effect is reduced by 25% for every single one that you have on top of each other. So most teams just give it to their support to buy and then have him stick onto the AD carry to get that shield. But RNG often like to buy multiple Locket of the Iron Solaris just to further shield Uzi. They always purchase Knight's Vow and Zeke's Convergence for him as well. Most teams do not consider this line of play to be cost effective whatsoever, but RNG does not care. They're willing to put as much gold as needed onto Uzi. You hear a lot about confidence and the mental strength of a player. When you know that your team is going to consistently protect you and consistently prioritize you over them, not only do you create a really fed ADC, you create a very confident player. One of Reckless's biggest criticisms during MSI was that he just did not do damage. He just played extremely safe to the point where he wasn't even dealing damage to enemy champions. Because Uzi is so consistently confident that his team will do everything they can to make sure that he stays alive, he's allowed to frontline, he's allowed to make really risky engagements and positioning moves because he knows his teammates have his back. Here is another example of Uzi's confidence and teamfight prowess. This is essentially their game-winning teamfight. Against Kingzone's team comp that has Sion, GP, and Varus, and all this wave clear, it's really difficult to siege against a team comp like that. In order to start a teamfight, you're going to need a tempting piece of bait like Baron or Elder Dragon in order to get KZ out from their towers. But Uzi decides to use himself as bait. He arcane shifts himself into the two people with the most CC on Kingzone's team. Arcane shifting like this by a regular Ezreal player would basically be considered inting at this point. Uzi knows that Kingzone's gonna go for him and is completely confident that his team will keep him alive. He even uses QSS super early here because he probably even expected to be hit by the Varus ult. Uzi's just trying to get KZ to pull the trigger so they can have a fight while RNG is still ahead. The reason he can have this much confidence is because his teammates instill confidence within him. Uzi is undeniably a fantastic ADC player, and he has the highest stat line of any MSI player. But it would be hard-pressed for any ADC not to be one of the best performing ADCs if they had as many resources to play with as Uzi does every game. Maybe Uzi is the best ADC in the world because RNG is the best team for an ADC to be on in the world. In other words, Uzi is not like Superman where he's so strong that he can just 1v9 and carry his entire team on his back. He's more like Captain America, or Captain China, I guess in this case. He needs teamwork and friendship to carry him and to make himself strong. With the power of communism, Captain China takes resources from his other teammates in order to make himself the supreme AD carry that can simply never be killed by any regular team.